You're live. It might be live. Okay. For those, okay, last year when summer came, I decided I wasn't going to, only talk about linen shirts or whatever for 3 months. I tried to pivot to make this more of a music oriented channel for a while. And so some of you who are subscribed might have been waiting and waiting and waiting for me to do another guitar video. And the rest of you could care less because you only want to see boot videos, whatever. But if you were watching many or most of my videos, somewhere in one of them last year, at least one, I think it was the one of the Made in Mexico Telecaster, but don't quote me on that, but probably that, where I promised I would do an updated video about my journey into custom guitars. And I think I talked about that in another one of the videos, at least one, somewhere in there. Anyway, somewhere along the line, as you all know, I got all hung up on comparing Jazzmasters to Jaguars and that kind of thing. And I ended up buying a Japanese Jaguar, but it had a couple minor issues, and for the price, it was the Fiesta Red, so I wasn't crazy about the color. And there was a nicer one available. I think it was a Made in USA model, but it was also Fiesta Red. So I was like, well, I'd just be spending a bit more money to get basically the same looking guitar, whatever the deal. I don't remember. So I never pulled the trigger on getting the USA one. I got the other one from Guitar Center, played it for about a week, and decided I could live without it for now. And again, somewhere down the line, I might still get a custom Jaguar because that might be the only way to get exactly what I want. Because the vintage ones are going to be a bit out of my price range, and the USA ones are almost in my price range, but then they're going to be used, and they might not be in excellent, perfect condition or whatever, or for the price, or they don't have a return policy like Guitar Center does, where if you don't like it, you take it back and you're done. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I had been looking a lot, as you may recall, at turning my Mexico Fender. It had a really heavy body, and for a while I was debating getting maybe a bit of it chambered, and the guy was explaining to me that it won't be the same as a regular chambered guitar. It might not be as light as I think it's going to be, yada, 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 but I really liked the satin neck. But I had also had it for almost 20 years or maybe more at this point. And so at that point, are things going to start going wrong if I really start playing this guitar a lot anyway, even though it's got a really heavy body and I don't like lugging it around all that much? Is this basically the same weight as a Les Paul, but doesn't, sound as good as a Les Paul? But at the same time, I was also debating getting a Telecaster that had a humbucker in the neck position. But a lot of the Telecasters I was seeing had either two humbuckers, both neck and bridge, which is like, well, why pay that much for that when you can just get the Les Paul? Or yada, yada, yada. And I did like the pickups that the Mexico, they weren't called the Player Series then. So, but it's basically the same thing as the Player Series now, more or less. So, so if you're hunting for a guitar, it was basically kind of close to the Player Series price range and all that when I bought it new. And of course, I ended up trading it in, which means I lost $200 or $300 than if I had sold it to somebody to defray the cost. And I was really loath to part with it because, like I said, I loved the neck, even though it had a little bit of that graying that people pay extra for now. And the satin neck was just amazing, but the body was just twice almost the weight that you would want of any guitar. Just really a heavy body, but a beautiful, pretty guitar. You can look at it in my old video or my photos or wherever it showed up. And it had a really good crunchy neck pickup, and the bridge pickup, I didn't really care for it. it never quite had that country twang sound to my ear that they're supposed to have. I don't know exactly how that's supposed to work out, but it just, I don't know. Maybe it's the way I play. Maybe it's just my schizophrenic mind being, acting up. I'm not actually schizophrenic, but you get the joke, right? But it's like, why does it just not sound how I think a Telecaster should sound in this? I don't know. So I kept it in the middle, and I found it boring. I put it in the bridge, and it sounded good and bluesy, and that was good enough for me most of the time, right? So really, that guitar only needed one pickup, in my opinion, most of its lifespan. And I said that, I think, in one of the videos, probably that one, how really that was the backward thing about like the original Esquire, that most people, I guess, that country twang came out of that original, but other players, I think, probably gravitated more to the bridge sound once they added that. So again, a humbucker in the bridge would make more sense, but that little neck pickup makes a lot of sound for what it looks like it is or does, So fast forward to today, where I didn't do, I don't know, I got this a couple months ago and I didn't do a video. But how can I keep this in frame without tripping over it when I can't. I guess it's about as good as it's going to be. So anyway, this is not a current model, but instead of going the Warmoth or custom shop Fender direction, I found this one as basically dead stock. And so this with the flame job, and it doesn't have the same maple neck, but it has the roast maple neck. So it does still have a bit more lacquer finish than I like, but it doesn't play terrible. And you can kind of see the grain a little bit. I mean, it's still a maple neck, not a rosewood neck. But I was watching a video recently, and you all can have the tone wood argument all you want. I'm personally mostly in agreement that the type of wood does affect the sound enough that, again, your schizophrenic brain will register it as a thing. So again, with the white pickguard, I was going to switch out the pickguard on the other one with this kind of cute one that I found, and I don't know if I'll do that with this one or not, because it might detract from the flame job. But of course, the one thing I don't like, this plate is kind of thin and flimsy. I mean, I can pull the knob and the plate kind of moves. I don't know if you can see that. And one of the knobs is kind of bent, and I guess I just have to kind of live with that. It seems like it's a little kind of angled. How good is the hardware? Don't know. I mean, it's made in USA, so I assume it should be good. Again, but it's been sitting in a case for 10 years in some guitar center in, Milwaukee or wherever. It came with a tweed case, but of course the foam in the actual case is kind of deteriorated from sitting around, so I'll have to replace the case if I actually want to travel with the thing. But not a big issue. I haven't taken the cellophane off. That's why that crinkled look is there. So that's what the cellophane looks like. Same as my other one was starting to crinkle, and I finally took the cellophane off before I sold it. So it never had a single paw print or anything on there because I left the cellophane on there for 20 years. I didn't care. Has the inset doo-doo-doo. It does have this not inset, so I don't know if you can see. It wants to shine all over everything. You can. This is a very shiny guitar apparently, but it does have the scalloped back. It does have the chamber body, so it's really light. Because yeah, that was the main thing I wanted to get from the custom guitar, was to really not necessarily scallop the back, but to definitely ease a lot of that. Oh yeah, it has the rounded deal. So this has been around longer than I thought it had. I thought this was a more recent addition in the past like maybe 8 years but it's been around for a little bit longer, I think. But it doesn't have the fully rounded wood part like the Lux series ones. Still has the skunk stripe for your truss rod, single string tree, of course. The standard headstock. Still has the plastic over the pickup. I don't know if that affects the sound or not. But in all the guitar reviews, and those of you who are, real guitar geeks, you already know all about this guitar, and you chose to not buy one, or you did buy one already. It says it has more of a champagne sound than like that, gritty blues sound. So yeah, I don't like the quieter or more genteel bridge pickup or neck pickup. Sorry, the bridge pickup. Maybe it's a little more twangy. I don't know. Because again, I don't have them side by side now, so I can't really compare them the way I would like. Because yeah, usually when you want to hear the one guitar, but I had to mail order it, so I couldn't play it before I bought it, kind of thing, really. And of course, I'm not plugging it in because, as you all know, as soon as I try to play a guitar through this setup, the microphone makes so it doesn't it doesn't sound good when I play guitars on YouTube at all until I figure out how to circumvent the microphone that came with the camera. And then it's got the standard 21 frets or whatever instead of the 22, I think. I don't know, let's count 3, 5, 7, 12. 22 frets. So is it the extra ones that have the 23 or is it the 22? They're not the 21? I don't know. So yeah, I guess it has 22 frets. And I don't remember the model number and all that kind of thing, or the, what do you call it? The whatever the extra name of the stuff that the people had in the original reviews. I just, like I said, for what I don't know the actual cost. Like I was trying to crunch the numbers of how much it was going to cost to get, well, again, with the Warmoth, I was going to keep the same neck. And like I said, originally I wanted to try and keep the original body. And then I thought, well, if I just swap out the body, but then I started to wonder about, aspects of like the quality of the fret wires or whatever you call them. That kind of thing, I wouldn't say that they were terribly worn down or worn out or anything because I hadn't been touring for 18 of those 20 years with that guitar. It was, not an entire case queen, but you can hear it's not quite an acoustic guitar, but you can hear it pretty, loud because there's enough resonation that might not be entirely in tune. Just to fart around. So I can literally play this without an amplifier, though, for quite a while if I really wanted to. And get a bit of noise out of it to practice if I was just going to use it to practice. Whatever practice means. And so, yeah, it's standard 3-way, switch. Nothing, unique or whatever about the electronics. Like I said, I think most of the people were saying you might really love these pickups or you might really hate them, but since they were releasing it more as a special edition or whatever, I think a lot of people were just buying it more because it was a pretty guitar. And this one, like I said, as far as I know, hadn't sold at all. It's just been sitting there. So me, the king of dead stock, perfect. It's pretty close to the guitar I was going to build maybe anyway. So whether or not I saved any money, I don't know. Whether I spent a little extra I don't know, but again, it is a USA build. It does have the locking tuners, which I don't know how to work at all. Well, you're supposed to be able to stay in tune, and it was pretty well in tune when it came out of the case, but they had tuned everything up half a step or something. It was all extra high, if memory serves, so I actually had to tune it down for a change instead of when they ship the guitars and they have them all detuned to where it's flat strings, dead strings, or whatever. So yeah, once I don't know, play it for a bit, maybe one of these days, I'll change out the strings. But the last one I had left the factory strings on the thing pretty much the entire time I had it, and I didn't care how they sounded. I thought, like I said, I wanted kind of that darker, muddier. So if somebody had said, "Oh, these are dead strings," I would have been like, "No, they sound perfect because they go good with that neck pickup again, with that throaty, crunchy sound." I'm not really sure how to say it, but anyway, so this is the new one that replaced that one and replaced that other one that I finally got rid of. So I ended up getting rid of 5 guitars and losing I don't know how much money to acquire 1 or 2 nicer pieces finally. And so yeah, that's that. I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, I guess questions are, they can put in the comments that if there's something I forgot to mention or some. Oh, and it does look like a plastic nut though, not a bone one or an imitation bone. That's definitely a white piece of plastic. So they still managed to cut a couple corners, but the price of it being a I mean, would you call it vintage now when it's over however many years old? I'm not sure what the actual terminology is, but yada yada. Like I said, I wanted it because it's not quite half the weight of a player Stratocaster, but definitely a lot lighter and should be a nice clean. Like I said, I wish it had a little less of the lacquer finish, but it doesn't seem to bother me when I'm actually, trying to play it as opposed to. But I really did like the older satin finish on the other one. So that's my biggest thing. If I was going to get a custom anything, especially if a custom shop is going to be about $5,000, I really want to know where that extra $2,000 or $3,000 is going, compared to something that I might be able to just find. Whereas the Warmoth, at least you were seeing the wood grain. The problem was, like I said, with the other top that I wanted to kind of keep or whatever, it was kind of like you can't have both. You either have to kind of go all in kind of thing, whereas this with the chambered, it just has the but of course I like the look of the flame top, even if, like I said, I was criticizing that in some cases I think Fender is trying to copy Gibson a little bit too much, but in other cases I think it just works. It's like, well, you can't argue with how this looks, even if it isn't an original Fender idea, because Fender originally would just be butterscotch, right? And I don't like the butterscotch look at all. So the whole reason I bought the other guitar in the first place, as I mentioned, is because it looked kind of like the one Bruce Springsteen had, even though Bruce Springsteen's was a totally different, it had a middle pickup and blah, blah, blah. And in the black and white photos, his wood grain looked a lot more pronounced, and he might have had a different neck than the maple neck, if memory serves. I don't remember. But anyway, yeah, so this doesn't look anything like the Bruce Springsteen guitar at all. It's it's its own thing, and so I guess I can live with that because it's an upgrade after however many years. So yay.